Hi, Sheila with Creative Aging again. It's almost Valentine's Day, so we are going to do a painting, and we'll do a little bouquet of flowers. And a lot of these shapes look like hearts. And so we're gonna play with some watercolor paints and layering. One nice thing about today's project is we're using very similar colors. We're gonna use all pinks and reds. And then we'll, of course, once that dries, we'll layer the greens for the stems. But you only need really one brush. I mean, you can have two brushes if you want two sizes of a small point brush. And so you also don't need, you can use probably the same cup of water. So it's a simple project, but don't think that it won't take time. It's simple, but it still takes time. So please get your paper. You can either use a square. Some of them are already cut. If you have a big full sheet or pad of paper, you can cut that in half. So it kind of depends on what size you want to give away, if you're gonna give this away or if you're gonna hang it. Maybe cut the paper down to fit a frame that you have. That's always good. And then, have your brush. Of course, have your paper towel in case you mess up and you need to blot. And we're working pretty light, and you don't need a pencil. We're just gonna dive right in and start making some shapes. So go ahead and get your point brush. This one's not the smallest. This is a kind of a medium point brush. But you all have new brushes, so this is a great project for these brand new point brushes. And let's go ahead and start with the lightest color like we do. We're gonna start light and build up from there. And so maybe, you could use that pink or you can use this pink. And I'm gonna put quite a bit of water in there. And actually, I'm gonna go ahead and put water in the colors I'm gonna use, just because I think that, we might blend them as we go, and then that'll have them ready. And sometimes they need a little more water anyways, so this set is pretty dry. So just go ahead and put water in the pinks and the reds. And then take your pink. And you can start wherever you want, really. So there's no right or wrong. You can do as many flowers as you want. It's just gonna be repetitive kind of shapes and layering different shades of this pink and red. So it's just up to you where you wanna start. I'm gonna start over here on the edge because I know I don't wanna go too far. I'm gonna keep it, right here. I'm gonna focus my flowers here and then make my stems here. So if that might be an easy starting point, is to do one on the furthest edge or the furthest to the top. That way you don't go too out of where you want. Okay, so you can almost start with doing a heart. Okay, and then fill that in. And remember, it dries a little lighter, so this will dry a little lighter. And if you want it lighter to start, you can go ahead and blot that. So I'm gonna show you a few different options. So you can kind of start with a heart on some of them. If you wanted to start with just doing kind of half hearts, like say at the top right here, let's do just 2 small petals. So you can kind of draw them and then fill them in if that's easier. So then see, I'll do kind of a heart there. And then fill it in. And then let's switch to the red. Go ahead and make sure to clean your brush in between each color. Even though we're using colors that will blend well together, it's just a good habit to always clean your brush. So I'll go ahead and do another one where I kind of draw that, and then let's do a little heart right there. So fill it in. Let's do a small one right here. And one nice thing is if you accidentally get too much paint on your brush, then you can just go in and we're gonna layer. I mean, so remember, this is just the first, kind of the lightest layer at the bottom of our painting. So you can kind of use it and go add more color, or you can wait till it dries and then add more color. Kind of up to you. So we don't want that to actually look like a big heart, so let's go ahead and separate that while I have red on my brush. And then let's go ahead and do just an outer. So I'm gonna make it look like there's a third petal right here. And let's go back into the pink. And so that's the part that's too dark. I don't like it. I'm gonna blot that. I'm gonna add dark later, so I don't wanna go that dark now. Okay, so let's blot it again. So I just added water, and let me just show you. So I just added water and then blotted it. And see, I have my under the pink that I put first. So because I lifted the red, it just showed the pink again. So that's what I wanted. And just keep going. As always, you know, it's a painting. It takes a little while to come together. And if you want to switch to a lighter pink, go ahead and switch. And you can add purples too. I mean, if you want to do purples, please do. Ever since I was a kid, my favorite color combination was red and purple. I had red and purple everything, and I still love it together. I don't know why. I've always been drawn towards those two colors together. So let's do a little pink one down here. So I just drew a different shape. Now fill that in. So, you know, play with different ways of doing this so each flower looks a little different. And that one needs another petal, so I'll go ahead and add that. So see how I did a heart on that one? So you can do a heart in one color, and then you can just add another petal somewhere else. You can even add a petal right here. So play with it, do some hearts in your painting, and then do some, and then add little extra petals on the sides of it, and it's kind of fun. I actually had a totally different project planned for today, but I wasn't really having fun. I was doing my example and playing, and I wasn't having fun, so I switched, and I thought this one was way more fun and relaxing. And my dog is driving me crazy. I don't know if you can hear her licking in this video. And if you can, I'm very sorry. I don't know why. She's like the cleanest cat dog on the planet. She just sits around and cleans all day. And sometimes I have to put her outside so you guys don't hear it in my videos. Quit it, Sophie. Quit it. Sorry. I might have to show you Sophie at the end of this video just so you can see how cute my dog is and clean. She's like the most clean, white, beautiful dog ever. Okay, so I'm just taking my pinks, and I'm just adding while I have it on my brush, I'm just adding it, since this is a very, you know, thin layer, so it's drying fast. And so once it's drying, you can just add more color on top. Let's see, and then just be patient, figure out where you want your other ones. So how big is your bouquet of flowers today? Do you want little ones out this direction? Do you want to keep it simple and, you know, just really focus on a few? I'm definitely going to add more. I think I want one right here. So. And I'm using a different paper. I wanted to show you the difference, how just a different brand of paper can make a difference in how your painting comes out at the end. So I'm curious myself. So I just felt like the first one I did was a little bit muted. So I wanted to see if this paper's better. So I went back to my red, and at this point, make sure you don't get too much color on your brush. So that's good. I don't want too much. The color's not the bad part. You don't want too much water at this point because you have your shape. And if you get too much water on your brush, then it might bleed all of these flowers together. So just make sure your brush is not holding a ton of water, because you can run your picture really fast and there's not really a way to fix it. So let's do, I've got a really bright red, so I'm just gonna do a couple little dots right there. Maybe way out here. And I'll do one here. And let's see. I'm thinking, sorry. I know this is what you guys should be doing. Between each, you really need to stop and think about what you want to do next. So I think this one maybe needs some red. So figure out which edge you want to put your red on. So I'll show you. Let's look at it close. And so, do you want red, or do you want more dark pink, or do you want to lighten it? Just really think about what you want to add. And you can always blot it away, but okay, that's dark. I'm going to just put some water on top of that. So rinse your brush. And I'm just going to see how it looks with just water. I'm going to move that paint around and just use my brush with water. So let's move it over. And so you could have definitely blotted that. I'm going to blot it in a minute, and if it doesn't lighten. But I like it, actually. I'm going to leave it. I'm going to let it dry and see how it looks, because I think it might dry good. And then let's add a little red here, just a little bit on one side. And then while I have a little red on my brush, let's add some right here. This needs another little petal. Let's just add a tiny one right there. Okay. So I'm just going over a lot of the colors I've already done. And then I think let's work on this one. And so think about it. Do you want to add maybe this pink? We could try it. And let's do the petal in the middle. Okay, maybe make this one bigger too. I'm gonna add some more of the light pink in a minute. Okay, let's look. And this, while we have that darker pink, let's add a little bit right here. This is where you just kind of go in and I'm gonna do the same thing. So see how I drew a dark part of on the bottom of the petal, and then I'm gonna use my water, just water only. So I put, this has nothing on it and just a little water, and then I'm gonna take that, hold on, there's too much water. So dot that away. So I'm gonna take that water and I'm gonna blend upward. So then it won't just look like a big stripe. We've done this with our sunsets. You guys have done this before. This is a good way to blend. So you kind of draw one line and then you move it upward. So we're gonna do that again, just because it's good practice. And let's see. We need one more flower, I think. Let's do another one, maybe out here. Figure out what color you want to do it. And you can even switch. Let's try this red, this dark red. So this one you need to be careful. I haven't put water on that yet, so let me put water on it just to make sure it doesn't get dark. This one will get dark and it turns really brown, but I like it as a underneath, kind of as the lightest. I mean, it's not gonna be light, but I like it. And then we can add some red or pinks on top, just lightly. So if you wanna test it, use your paper towel. And then figure out where you wanna put it. Maybe right here, right there. We might do two. Let's just do small ones. I'll do another heart. There we go. And I'll do another color for the side. And then let's do a little one right here. So see, I did not put more color on the brush. I kind of like it to be lighter. So, and if you want to separate and leave some white in between, that's good too. All right, so then do a little petal here. So these look like a blob. I'm definitely gonna separate those petals. So I wanna figure out what color I wanna do on top. Now make sure it's dry enough. So I'm gonna wait a minute, but let's look at it. So I'm gonna separate that middle petal, and then this one is gonna need some more layers on top just to bring out some edges. So you can either put some pink or a little more red. Let's try the pink. Let's do the bright pink. Maybe we'll do the red on that one. So just like bring the pink edge out right here, maybe. And then maybe this one will just have a little bit of pink on the very edge of it. And then let's try the red on the other. This is just experimenting to see what it looks like. So make sure that that's not too bright. Okay, that's good. So let's bring this middle one out. It's just gonna be a very subtle difference in color, which is what I want. And then this one, let's bring maybe a little red in this top petal. So I didn't put more paint on the brush. I'm using what I have until the very end, but that's kind of fun because these very subtle additions make a big difference. So just keep going back and forth, adding reds, pinks to each petal just to make them look a little different. So. And all right, let's take a pause. Think about if you want to add any more flowers. And if you do, then you can add a small one up here if you wanted. If you want the bouquet to go off the page like it's massive, please add some on the very edges. Make it as big as you want. So you keep going if you want to add more. I'm going to go ahead and do the stems just so you see how to do that. So it's pretty easy. You can switch if you want to switch to a smaller brush, but these new brushes have such a good point, you can probably use that. We're just going to use a little bit of green, and we're going to do the dark green and the light green. We're going to switch. And remember, you don't want water for this. You don't want much water. You just want your brush to be wet in the beginning. So this was too dry. So I'm going to wet that quite a bit. And then maybe test it before, because you want the line to be really straight. You don't want too much water, because if it starts dripping, the green is going to get into your petals. So I think this is good. And then figure out where you want your stems to stop and just draw. Figure out a stopping point. And you are going to have to dip your brush quite a bit, because what I do is I'm dipping my brush in the water, then I'm kind of getting rid of some of the water. But to get a good line, you still need to, and then if you can even test it to make sure there's not too much, and then get more paint. But to get more paint, you still need to have a wet brush. And these brushes dry pretty fast because there's not much to them. That's why they have a good point. And let's go here. And remember, don't press too hard. So I wanted to show you this. So this, I pressed a little harder on one and then a little lighter on the other. So the harder you press, the thicker your line's gonna be. But that's gonna be interesting. So you don't want everything to look the same, just like the petals. And so play with how hard you're using your brush. Okay, so dip it in the more water, and you can switch if you want to try the dark green. And I'm gonna have you just test on your paper towel each time until you feel confident. Once you've painted and you really understand watercolors, you probably don't need to do this. But it's a good habit at the beginning, because I don't want you to mess up and have too much water on your brush, and then that green is gonna really ruin your painting. If you do not do this part and you're not in control over your water and your brush, then you will ruin the painting. So just be safe and test and kind of visualize where you want this stem to go before you start drawing it. So think about, like this one. You don't want to just start drawing the green, because you might get lost while you're drawing it and you might go right through your petal. So visualize what you're going to do before you do it. And so let's look together. So this one, where's the stem going to go? Do you want it to go kind of down through here? Do you want it to go behind that flower and maybe curve over? So think about it before you actually put your brush to the paper. And think about if you want the dark green or the light green. So I'm gonna just go straight down. So I'm gonna curve. And you don't want straight lines. Let's just curve around. It is fun. And this one will go straight down through. And some of these lines are gonna cross over. And see, I'm using the brush because I like some of them light and some of them dark. So I'm not even getting more paint on my brush right now. I'm just gonna continue so it gets a little lighter. And then I can always go over it, which I'm gonna go over it with another color here in a second. Now I'm going way faster than you're gonna go, just so you know. I'm doing a video, so you guys take your time, really think about where you want your vines, not vine stems. I switched, I'm gonna do this lighter green now, and go ahead and test it. Make sure it's a good amount of paint and not as much water. So these got light. I'm gonna go ahead and go over these two. And one good thing is since you're not using a ton of water, it will dry faster. But still be careful where your hand is going, because if you have down here a little wet spot and you put your hand, like say you're drawing and you put your hand over it, it's going to smear it. And so I'm kind of used to doing this, so I just automatically lift my hand up. But if you can't do that and you're used to painting with your hand rested on your paper, maybe wait for it to totally dry. You might have to just take more breaks, because once you get up here, this is all not drying yet, you know, because I'm doing it all in a pretty quickly. So this is definitely not dry. So I've been lifting my hand up, but that might not work for you guys. So just see what is best for you. If you need to let this dry and just take more time, then do it. I don't want you to smear your stems, especially into your pink. I don't think getting the green out of the pink is going to be very easy for you. Okay. So let's take a break and take a look at it, figure out if you want to add more color in the petals now. If you want to brighten any of those petals up, please do. So maybe I'll look at, let's just do more pink. I just want to show you, if you just wanted to do an extra layer, what it's going to look like. So you can of course leave it as is if you're done. But if you just want to add the same color after it's dry, you can maybe do that. So I'm going to use this bright pink because that's what I did in the beginning. And say I just want to go over one of these petals. It will brighten it up. So you might want to go over some of these just to really brighten them. And then let's do the same with right here. So see how I have red on the edge of that petal? And then I'm going to do that pink. And it kind of made it a more natural transition. And if you wanted to add like a light petal behind any of these, oh, this one bugs me, so hold on. Sorry, I'll get back to that thought in a moment. All right, so now I'm gonna put more water on my brush and I'm just gonna add really light petals behind some of them. And you can, let's just use this lightest pink. So test it, make sure it's real pale. So you want more water, and let's just have some that peek behind. So maybe, so think about where you wanna go. Let's do one right back here. Okay. And you can do these wherever you want. If you wanted to add an extra petal, I mean, say this one, you want to add a fourth petal, you can. Just do a light one. I'm going to add some pink to this right here, just a little bit. Oh, sorry, I'm holding it up. This is probably not the best idea. I thought maybe you'd see it better, but it's really hard for me to paint like that. Plus, my water's going to drip. Okay. Okay. And think about what else you want to do. Maybe this one, let's go and add maybe more red. I think more red down there. Let's do it. So more red, I'm gonna dot it on my paper towel to make sure it's the right shade, and just add red to one. And I wanna add something to that petal. It's too faded. Maybe let's add that dark red. Let's try it. Not too dark though, okay. There we go. That looks better. And I'm gonna add some of the dark red over here to this edge. Now there's a lot of water there, so I'm gonna be careful. Okay. So I'm gonna go over, so before, you know, I did this dark red and I made it very light. Well, I'm adding a little more. And maybe just a little more to that edge. Okay. I think it's looking good. I think maybe one more touch up and I'm done. And I just want to make one of these a little bit brighter. So I'm going to add more pink just on the edge. So see how I'm doing that right there? And then I'm just letting it go all the way. Sorry, not talking and painting well today. All right, here, let's look at it. And I want you to, now I tested the paper just to see if there's a difference. There's not a huge difference. I think, just notice these two, see the dark? So this is a little darker. So some paper reacts different. You know, every watercolor paper, you know, has its own little flair. And so this one kind of muted, I think it muted some of the colors. Sorry, let's make sure you can see it well. Okay. I personally think this one looks a little brighter. And I did the exact same kind of layering of techniques. And I did it on purpose so I could compare. And look how much wider this paper is. So your materials really do matter. You know, the brand of your paper, what kind of watercolors. So if, you know, sometimes you might think that you hate your art, you think it's you, but it's probably your supplies. So it's good to just step up and use